So Governor Greg Abbott released this. It was publicized yesterday, dated the day before. Now this is not a new law. It needs to be very understood. This is an interpretation of an existing law. So what that means is the Attorney General of Texas is saying that the state of Texas will interpret the law in this fashion. And the only way to decide whether or not this interpretation is correct is by going to court. So I want to read this. Consistent with our correspondence in August 2021, the Office of the Attorney General, OAG, has now confirmed in the enclosed opinion that a number of so-called sex change procedures constitute child abuse under existing Texas law. So what they're saying is, again, this is not a new law. This is existing law. And how are we going to know if our interpretation is the right one? We're going to go to a court, and hopefully that judge wasn't appointed by Donald Trump. Because the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services is responsible for protecting children from abuse, I hereby direct your agency to conduct a prompt and thorough investigation of any reported instance of these abusive procedures in the state of Texas. If you are under the age of 18, right, you are banned from being transgender. What does that even mean? What does that mean? And you think it's going to stop at kids? And teens? And young adults? Why would it? As OAG opinion makes clear, it is already against the law to subject Texas children to a wide variety of elective procedures for gender transitioning. Now, again, I want to be very clear. I'm going to be very, very clear. Would they apply the same standard to, let's say, ADHD medication, anxiety medication, depression medication? Right, so, I'm so worried about kids and their health and safety, so giving them drugs is against the law. Okay. Is cough syrup, is that child abuse? I mean, if they take enough, they'll start tripping. Right? So, if your kid has a cold, if you give them cough syrup, should that be illegal? That's child abuse. Let's go even further here, folks. Let's try to be ideologically consistent. High fructose corn syrup and sugar. Like Cookie Crisp. Look at these sugary cereals and fast food marketed to kids. Is that child abuse? When I was young, my mother raised me on fast food and ice cream. I ate a lot of fast food. I got a lot of Happy Meals. I got a lot of toys from Burger King and McDonald's. And now, I've got weight problems for the rest of my life. I've got stretch marks on my body, presumably for the rest of my life. So, one could make an argument that giving kids sugary cereals or fast food or ice cream is child abuse. Where is the line? What is the ideologically consistent way to draw this line? But it gets worse, folks. Again, it gets worse. There is no logic. The only ideology behind this order is hate. That's it. There is no care about kids. There is no fairness. All of those are vague, nonsense garbage to make you go in line with hate. The government of Texas is committing a genocide of transgender people. That is factual. There is no other alternative interpretation of what's happening here. There is no alternative. We know, it has been factually reported, that when trans people do not get the health care that they need, they are more likely to commit suicide, self-harm, be depressed, have record levels of anxiety. We are aware, these are studies that have been out for decades now, that have proven that when people get the help that they need, medically speaking, that their rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide plummet nearly into non-existence. The only effect that has any bearing on whether trans people will kill themselves or hurt themselves after transitioning in some capacity, the only thing that has any bearing on that at all is societal acceptance. So we get everything we need medically. We're all set. We're feeling great. We're looking great. God damn. And then we're the victim of a hate crime. The only metric that remains consistent pre and post transition in regards to depression, self-harm, and suicide is societal acceptance. Because there are millions of hateful, warmongering, genocidal maniacs that will do anything that they can to make other people's lives as difficult as possible for no reason. So I'm going to keep reading. So here are the things that they're talking about. For gender transitioning, including reassignment surgeries that can cause sterilization. Okay, so anything that can cause sterilization. A lot of people can get sterilized or have very low sperm counts and other things from the food that they eat. Certain kinds of foods can lead to infertility. Is the government of Texas going to ban certain kinds of food? No. Mastectomies. Sorry, folks, I'm high. Removals of otherwise healthy body parts. The administration of puberty-blocking drugs. Or doses of testosterone or estrogen. All right, so let's talk about this. So if you mess with your hormones under the age of 18, you belong in jail. Okay? So we all know, right, that the food you eat dictates your hormone production. We know that, right? So is steak going to be banned in Texas? Are they going to ban steak? We all know that steak leads to runaway testosterone production that can lead to, heart attacks and other such things. So is steak banned? It can fuck with your hormones. What if you give steak to someone under the age of 18? Fuck. Removals of otherwise healthy body parts. Like foreskin? Are circumcisions banned in the state of Texas? Now, obviously, yes. By this logic, everyone who circumcises their child should be sent to jail. That's what this order says. The removal of an otherwise healthy body part, aka circumcision, right? If you circumcise your kid, you're going to go to jail. But wait, it's not how it works. Why? Because it's about enforcement. It's about enforcement. Are people going to enforce this in a way that sends parents to jail over circumcision? No. Because even though, yes, circumcision is morally reprehensible, and yes, the law literally says that it's banned in child abuse, no one is going to do that because we're not crazy. That said, there are crazy motherfuckers that will try to enforce this against trans people and parents of trans kids. So that needs to be understood. The law is irrelevant. It's about enforcement and how the enforcement functions. But again, under this law, circumcision is also banned. Steak is banned under this law. Fine, we'll ban soy as well. Soy, steak, and circumcisions. Is birth control banned? That's a good point. Yeah, is birth control banned? Under this interpretation of Texas law, birth control is banned. Texas law imposes reporting requirements upon all licensed professionals who have direct contact with children who may be subject to abuse, including doctors, nurses, teachers. So, like they are mandating, like if you see like someone with bruises on their wrist, you would report them. They are now saying if you see someone like have glitter on their notebook, you have to report them and they'll be taken away from their parents. There are similar reporting requirements and criminal penalties for members of the general public. So again, if you don't report, you are also a criminal. I know. Doesn't that sound like something that Nazis would do in Germany? Huh? Does anyone? Maybe? So if you know a trans person, you have to call the authorities immediately and turn them in. Otherwise, you go to jail. It's almost like we've been through this in history before. Texas law also imposes a duty on DFPS to investigate the parents of a child who is subjected to these abusive gender transitioning procedures, and on other state agencies to investigate licensed facilities where such procedures may occur. Now, my question is, what if someone transitions and gets access to it, let's say, illegally because the legal procedures are all blocked, and they start taking puberty blockers, let's say when they're 15, and they don't tell their parents? Would the parents still go to jail? I'm curious. Texas law also imposes blah, blah, blah. To protect Texas children from abuse, DFPS and other state agencies must follow the laws as explained in OAG opinion. And this is another part that was linked here. One's growth and development, therefore, a court could find these procedures and treatments to be child abuse under section blah, blah, blah. Further attempts by a parent to consent to these procedures and treatments on behalf of their children may, if successful, cause or permit the child to be in a situation in which the child sustains a mental or emotional injury that results in an observable and material impairment in the child's growth. Huh? What does that even mean? Like, if my kid falls down the stairs and breaks their arm, is that my fault? I mean, you can make an argument, right? You know, you should have made the stairs safer, right? But it's like, if the kid gets hurt at soccer practice, like, you know, twists their ankle at soccer practice, is that my fault now? Or, wait, no, it's only if the kid is trans. Again, I need you to understand, all of these opinions are broad, so broad that they could be applied to so many other things. But ultimately, it does not matter because it's about enforcement. The only enforcement that's going to be happening here is abusing transgender people. Additionally, the failure to stop a doctor or another parent from conducting these treatments and procedures on a minor child can constitute a failure to make a reasonable effort to prevent an action by another person that results in physical injury that results in substantial harm to the child. Again, you have to report them. Everyone goes to jail, especially the kid. Now note, you might not know this, you might not be in the trans community, as I am. I've got a community. We're in the community. We all hang out by the water cooler, talking to a lot of trans people, okay? So another thing about this that's irrespective of enforcement of this law is, again, the othering that this message sends. There are people that I know that live in Texas that are trans. I know of people that are in Texas that have trans kids, that are trans kids, 16, 17. And I can tell you that there is going to be a mass wave of self-harm and suicide in the state of Texas in the trans community. I can tell you. That's going to happen. And it's not because they are trans and, oh, they're mentally ill and they're crazy and they're going to kill themselves. It's because of this right here and the result of the government and the society that they live in. I know plenty of trans kids, stories of trans kids that killed themselves because their parents did not accept them? So, okay, your parents don't accept you. Your government doesn't accept you. And now the government is going to send militiamen to send you to prison. And everyone who you've ever spoken to is going to report you. Or else they'll go to prison. I can tell you right now, if not already have taken place, there are going to be trans people, mostly kids, that are going to kill themselves. And those deaths are, again, part of a genocidal act and effort by the Texas government and by the broader U.S. government, and let's be real, the cis people all over the world. What the fuck is wrong with the cis people? Let's be honest. Y'all got some real fucking Looney Tunes motherfuckers in your ranks. Let's be honest. Trans people aren't starting World War III over here. I'm just saying. It's not the trans people threatening nuclear warfare. I'm just throwing that out there. So again, this is not good, folks. If you live in Texas, if you know people that live in Texas, I recommend reaching out to them. I personally recommend, if you are trans, if you know someone who's trans, if you have a trans kid, if anyone anywhere in your involvement in your social circles are trans, help them leave the state. If you are trans in Texas and you want a GoFundMe, I will happily share any GoFundMes or fundraising efforts to get you out of the state of Texas. I recommend the nearest state that has good options is Colorado. So I would recommend get the fuck out as soon as possible. But that's not going to be possible for everybody. Not everyone is going to magically come up with the millions of dollars it's going to take for everyone to move out of Texas. And again, where's the Second Amendment, people? If I have a trans kid and a government tyrant comes to my door saying that they're going to steal my child, what does the Second Amendment have to say about this? You're telling me big government tyrants are going to come into my house and steal my child and send me into a steel cage? I believe that we amended the Constitution to fight against that. And that was the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which I am in wholehearted endorsement of at this moment. If you are in Texas and you can't afford to leave, can you afford a gun? Because maybe, just maybe, the Constitution says you're allowed to have that gun. And you're allowed to defend yourself against government tyranny. That's what the Second Amendment says. But again, it's about enforcement. The people that would enforce, the lawyers in this case, the state in this case, would throw the Second Amendment out the window ASAP. Because to them, it doesn't matter. You can get married at the age of 14 in Texas with parental consent. That's legal. But being trans is illegal. Again, folks, it's all falling apart. I don't know what to tell you. It's all falling apart.